Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is the series about a yellow dress and its adventure to become 4 different outfits. This is a 6-part series and I've already covered 4 different outfits with the one dress, showing you how to make the dress, making Fluttershy's accessories, making Asuka's accessories, and today's video will be featuring how to make Luna from Sailor Moon's accessories. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for awesome cosplay, fashion, and DIY goodness. So, let me begin showing you how I made Luna from Sailor Moon. Obviously, Luna isn't a human all the time, she's usually a cat, but in the Sailor Moon movie, she turns into a human. In the comic book, she also turns into a human a few times, such as the coronation, but right now we are going to focus on how to make this entire ensemble, including the anklet she never wears. In my last videos, I actually talked about using air dry clay a little bit late in the video, so this time we are going to be showing you the air dry clay parts first. This includes 2 earrings, a long necklace piece, a anklet piece, like I mentioned earlier, and a little moon for your forehead, aka all these pieces were created using air dry clay and a lot of gold paint. So let's get started. So of course, I'm going to be working with my favorite white air dry clay. Obviously, you want to wait 24 hours for this clay to dry out, and that way everything will be nice and hard. I'm going to take a small amount of clay and roll it into a log and then pinch it into a shape of a moon. I want this to be raised a little bit, and then I'm going to flatten one of the sides onto the table. I feel like I pinched off too much clay, and it's always easier to take away clay than add clay. That way you create a nice smooth little piece. This piece is actually the forehead moon, so make sure that it's going to be bigger than the moons for the earrings. Now continue making moons in different sizes. So you will need 2 extra small moons for your earrings, you will need an extra large moon for your necklace pendant, and you will need a small medium moon for your anklet. Make sure that you have enough clay for all of these moon project pieces. I based my moons off of my body shape so that they would be small or big. If you are a larger or a smaller person than me, make sure you size out your moons according to your body type. You don't want a moon too big for your necklace, and you don't want a moon too small for your anklet. I attempted to put jump rings inside the necklace and the anklet, that way it would be easy to attach. Unfortunately, the necklace was too heavy, but it did work for the anklet. Now that these are drying, I'm going to move on to the next piece, and that way we don't slow down on making this costume. The next really easy piece of this costume is actually the little flower rosettes that go on her breasts, and these are very easy to make with some extra black fabric. So with extra black fabric, I cut out 2 same size large circles. I used a bowl to create the perfect measurement, and now I'm going to hand sew these together, and I'm going to make them into a giant little puff. Once I have gone around the circumference hand sewing it, I'm going to gather, aka pull the string really tightly, and it's going to gather everything together, and the back is going to be nice and flat, and the front is going to have this nice little pattern, or like a rosette. We're going to sew the fabric a little bit more and then create a knot. This is going to secure it. This is now going to be the front part of our little flower, and the back piece is going to be where we add pin backings. This is what it looks like, and now we just cut off the excess string. Now I'm taking out a piece of scrap black fabric. I'm going to be folding it in multiple ways, just like how you made snowflakes when you were a kid, and keep folding until it's a small little square. Now I'm going to cut out spherical shapes all the way from the side and the other side. Now I'm going to have tons of little circles, and it's okay if they aren't the same size or if they are not perfect circles. That's awesome! Now we are going to start using a flame to the edge to start crisping them, and so they will not fray. When you burn it, it's actually going to start curving in, and it's going to create it to look more like a petal. Begin doing this to all the new little scrap pieces that you cut out, even the small ones, because you want to gradually build it up into a flower on top of the little rosette we just made. Obviously later I am not going to keep on using this little fire torch. I'm going to be using a candle. So I recommend using a candle so it stays lit, and that way it's easier to work with. Now take black string and thread a needle. You're going to be sewing through the middle of the smallest petal you have and then working your way through larger petals to create a flower. And you're going to be sewing in the middle, so slowly, just take your time. It's okay if you don't get it exact in the middle, but as long as you work your way in and out, sewing it through each little petal, and then finally, when you're done, you're going to sew it onto the giant rosette that you made in the beginning. Once you have gathered enough petals to make a little flower, grab out a pin backing. My pin backing has 2 holes in it, and I will be sewing that to the flower itself. This way I can attach it to the dress and remove it. I'm going to be starting off using the little pocket, and then I'm going to be putting the flower on top of it. So using the same thread and needle, I'm going to be sewing through that little pucker part and going back and forth into it and then into the flower, and that way it is centered. Once I have that fully down, I'm going to be using this pin backing, and I will be sewing through that and through all the layers. And do this for the other one as well. Because there are so many layers, take your time and thread your needle carefully and slowly so you don't accidentally mispoke yourself or you don't get your thread caught in a knot. Here you can see that I'm working the thread through the pin backing, making it more secure, just like I'm securing a button. Once you finish both little flowers and the pin backings are both attached, you are ready to start the next part. The next part that I'm going to be discussing is how to make this black underskirt. Honestly, you can do the skirt many different ways, but I had fun and I used different fabrics to give it dimension. So follow my tutorial and it'll look the same. Because I don't have a lot of materials, I'm going to be using the elastic that I have, some blue fabric that I think will look great in the light and give dimension, some black tulle, and of course some black other fabric that I have on hand. First things first, I'm going to be cutting out as much as possible into circle skirts. There are some layers in the front underneath her dress, and here I'm going to be utilizing this as much as possible. I'm using the blue material as the long part of the dress in the back, so I'm going to be cutting out off of the circle skirt idea and then slowly curving it from the bottom hem, but I'm going to use this as a base. This is the same pattern as the yellow dress so that I still get the same shape. Here I'm going to be trying to use up all of this material, and I'm showing you this curve. This is going to be the back portion of the skirt and it's going to be hanging. So I'm going to be cutting it in a half circle shape, but it's not going to be perfectly circular in a sense. I hope you guys get it, but you can see me here working my way around the fabric and utilizing as much as possible and making sure that the top is even. Here I'm going to straighten it out. This fabric's very mushy and I'm cutting off the salvage that I will not need. This is now the new back piece. So I have the elastic, the first skirt piece that I created, and the back piece. I found this black chiffon and I will be incorporating this into my outfit. I'll be using all of it so I get more fullness. For the black skirt, I'm going to be roll hemming the edges on the sides, and then the bottom hem I'm going to be using horsehair braid just like the yellow dress. This will be really nice and it will give it dimension just like the front of the dress. and then I'm going to just be hemming the blue part regularly. In my last video, I talked about how to use horsehair braid. In this one, I'm just going to give you a slight demonstration where you sew it on the right side of the fabric and then you're going to be flipping it over and sewing it again. Now that I've attached the horsehair on the right side, I need to flip it over to the wrong side and sew it down. Doing this will help ensure that the horsehair stays where it needs to be. Adding horsehair to an outfit can really bring it alive, make it pop, and give it structure. During this part, I thought it would be really neat if I tried a decorative stitch instead of using a regular straight stitch. This way, it would give it a little bit more pizzazz if you were up close versus just a regular straight stitch. This is totally optional and you can use a straight stitch if you want to. I decided to go for this curly little decorative stitch because it reminded me of full moons and the moon's phases, so that's what I decided to choose. Obviously, you could choose something different, but I just wanted to show you a close-up. I realized that there was something wrong with my skirt and that it hangs exactly where the yellow skirt is, so I had to cut an extra piece of fabric and let it hang, and that is why my skirt looks differently. So when we cut out our waistband, we are going to have to add an extra strip of fabric to hang the skirts. So in order to do the waistband, wrap it around your waist, make sure it's tight, stretch it a little bit, and then cut that piece of elastic. Obviously this is not the right piece of elastic, well. Anyways, this is what your elastic sizing should be. Now, using my elastic as an extra way of finding a measurement without me having to do a lot of work, I'm going to be cutting out a large trapezoid shape from my black scrap materials. So I'm laying out my elastic piece and then I'm going to cut out a trapezoid shape because my hips are pretty wide compared to my waist, and I'm going to slowly cut that out. I don't need this trapezoid shape to hang too long because I only want it to peek under the yellow a little bit. So it hangs about 4 to 5 inches longer, and then I'm going to make sure that the hemline is even. I realized that this piece only wraps around my body a little bit and it's missing a little space. So I'm going to fold it in half and I'm just going to cut it out this way. This way I don't have to really measure out too much. I can gather the skirts on top of it and give it a little bit of volume. And this way attaching all the fabric will be easy and I just combine it to strap. Now I'm going to take out my tulle and make sure that it hangs appropriately. I'm just going to hang it off of my body and then I'm going to double it and then cut it. Then I'm going to repeat this a few times so I have a lot for the skirt. I'm going to be attaching this to the skirt first, and then I'm going to lay the blue fabric and the black skirt fabric on next, and then I'm going to attach it all to the elastic. So I cut out a lot of tulle strips for the front, and that way it'll puff out the skirt and give more volume. I measured it out by hanging the black skirt in front of me and then just cutting it and giving it a little bit of a peekaboo look, kind of like what they did in the 90s. This is what your skirt should look like right now, and when we add the fabric pieces, it'll look better. Make sure to attach it above the tulle so that way it can flare out. And make sure that you haven't added your elastic yet, because if you did, it will be really difficult to sew on the bottom skirt pieces. Here you can see I'm sewing the black skirt right sides together on top of the short end of the tulle skirt using a regular straight stitch. And now add all the other skirts, and then when you're done with that, you're ready to add your elastic. Make sure your elastic is facing the right way and then sew it together and combine it into a giant circle. This is what your skirt should look like with all the skirt pieces attached. Now we're going to pin part of the elastic to the skirt and slightly stretch it, that way it'll fit. And then you're going to zigzag stitch it to the skirt. The reason why we are zigzag stitching it to the skirt is because it creates a little bit of stretch when you sew, and you're going to gently guide it and pull it through the machine. Make sure that your elastic is slightly stretched, that way it can reach all the way around your new band, and that way it'll stretch appropriately and won't gather irregularly. Work your way slowly through it, and I'm doing right sides together. That way my seam is on the inside. Now go back to your clay pieces. Your white modeling clay should be dry now if 24 hours has passed. I'm going to be using Mod Podge so that it will be a little bit protected as a primer, and then I will be painting it gold. I'm using a metallic gold as well. I want to show you my craft fail of this project. I actually started a giant moon from like cardstock and I painted it. I definitely hated it and it loved the new moon that I created with the modeling clay. And just look how nice it looks with the dimension and the gold paint. So sometimes it does pay off to wait a little bit, and this is what it looks like with all the paint and a little gloss. Now grab 2 earring hooks and small chain and attach it to the moons. I actually had to attach it using clear thread. And now add a giant gold chain for the moon for the necklace. And I'm using a small gold bracelet chain for the anklet. Now your jewelry is complete. For the moon that goes on the forehead, I use eyelash glue to secure it in place. The last jewelry piece you'll need is a yellow ribbon for a choker. This is only in the movie, so if you do the manga version, you don't need this. I created this using the scrap yellow fabric from when I made this dress. Now you will need a long curly black wig, and make sure it has bangs. If you don't have that, well then, use a black wig. So now all of your accessories are complete and you can dress up as Luna! With the wig, I did have to do a little bit of extra styling. I had to create the 2 little buns that goes on her head. So I created 2 pigtails on each side and then just twisted it around and secured it with bobby pins. Ta-da! This is my finished Luna cosplay and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in a comment down below. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already because you know you want to come back for awesome cosplay, fashion, and DIY goodness. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all your support and I will see you in the next video. Ta-ta! Here's just the extra tidbit. This is what the old moon used to look like, and this is the new moon. Yeah, you can totally see how I think it's a craft fail now, don't you? It's really gross. Be happy and smile!